The blind date that changed everything. Sarah Mitchell's phone buzzed for the third time that evening. Another text from her best friend Jessica, "You promised you'd go." "One date, Sarah. Just one." Sarah stared at her reflection in the bathroom mirror of Romano's, the upscale Italian restaurant in downtown Chicago. Her nurse scrubs had been replaced by a simple navy dress she'd thrown on after her 12-hour shift at Children's Memorial Hospital. Dark circles shadowed her eyes, and her blonde hair, hastily curled, was already losing its bounce. She was exhausted, emotionally drained, and absolutely not ready for this blind date. But a promise was a promise. Taking a deep breath, Sarah stepped into the dimly lit restaurant. The hostess, a polished woman in her 30s, smiled warmly. "Table for one." "Actually, I'm meeting someone." "Reservation under." "Collins?" Sarah checked her phone again, reading Jessica's message with the details. "Ah yes, Mr. Collins. Right this way." The hostess led her through the bustling restaurant, past tables of laughing couples and business dinners, to a corner booth. "Here you are. He should be here any moment." Sarah slid into the booth, her heart hammering. This was her first date since the accident. Since losing Marcus 2 years ago. Since her whole world had shattered into a million pieces. Jessica meant well, pushing her back into life, but sitting here now, waiting for a stranger, Sarah felt like she was betraying something sacred. She was about to text Jessica and bail when she heard it. "Daddy, I need to go potty." A small, urgent voice cut through the restaurant ambience. "Me too." Another voice chimed in. "I don't have to go, but I want to come." A third voice added. Sarah looked up, and her breath caught. Walking toward her table was a man who clearly looked as overwhelmed as she felt. He was tall, probably in his mid-30s, with dark hair slightly disheveled and an expensive suit that somehow looked both professional and rumpled at the same time. But it wasn't him that made Sarah's eyes widen. It was the 3 identical little girls holding his hands and trailing behind him. They couldn't have been more than 5 years old, with matching dark curls tied in slightly lopsided ponytails and wearing what appeared to be their fancy dresses, complete with light-up sneakers. The man's eyes met Sarah's, and she saw it immediately, pure panic mixed with mortification. "I am so sorry," he said, stopping at her table. His voice was deep but gentle, tinged with exhaustion. "You're Sarah?" "I'm James Collins. And these are, well, this is Emma, Lily, and Sophie. There was a babysitter situation." "Well, more accurately, there was no babysitter situation. She canceled 2 hours ago, and I couldn't reach you, and I just..." He ran his hand through his hair, making it stick up even more. "I completely understand if you want to leave. This is not what you signed up for." The 3 little girls stared up at Sarah with identical pairs of curious brown eyes. One of them, Emma, if Sarah caught the names correctly, waved shyly. Sarah should have left. Every fiber of her exhausted being told her to make a polite excuse and escape. This was a disaster. A blind date with a single father and his 3 daughters. This was beyond complicated. But then she looked at James Collins again. Really looked at him. Beneath the obvious stress and embarrassment, she saw something achingly familiar. The same bone-deep weariness she saw in her own mirror every morning. The look of someone trying to hold everything together while carrying an invisible weight. The expression of someone who was doing their absolute best and still felt like they were failing. And the girls. 3 little souls looking between their father and this stranger, sensing the tension, waiting to see what would happen next. Sarah made a decision that surprised even herself. She smiled, a real smile, the first genuine one she'd felt in weeks. "Well," she said, sliding over in the booth, "it's a good thing I asked for the big table then, isn't it? Come on, girls. Let's get you seated." But first, she looked at James with understanding eyes. "I believe someone needs the bathroom." The relief that washed over James's face was almost comical. You're serious? Bathroom first, questions later. Sarah stood up. Come on, ladies. I'm a nurse. I know all about bathroom emergencies. That night at Romano's didn't go anything like a typical first date. There were spilled drinks and Sophie's dramatic interpretation of her entire kindergarten play. There were negotiations over whether pasta counted as a vegetable and Emma's detailed explanation of why her dad's pancakes were shapes of sadness. Lily, the quietest of the three, spent most of dinner drawing on her napkin but eventually scooted closer to Sarah and whispered, "You smell like the hospital." But the nice kind. Between the chaos, in stolen moments while the girls colored or debated the merits of different Disney princesses, Sarah and James talked. Really talked. James was the CEO of Collins Tech Solutions, a cybersecurity firm his father had founded. When his wife, Rachel, died from complications during the girl's birth, James had been 28 years old, suddenly a widower and father to 3 premature babies fighting for their lives in the NICU. His parents had helped initially, but they'd both passed within a year of each other 3 years ago. Now it was just him, 3 kindergartners, a demanding company, and a rotating door of nannies who couldn't handle the unique chaos of triplets. "I'm not on dating apps, you know," James admitted as the girls constructed an elaborate castle from sugar packets. "My assistant set up that profile. She said I needed to rejoin the living." Her words, not mine. He laughed, but it was hollow. "I accepted this date because she wouldn't stop nagging me. I was going to cancel when the babysitter bailed, but then I thought about how I've canceled everything, every tiny thing for myself, for 5 years. And I couldn't cancel again. So I did the insane thing and brought them instead." Sarah understood that feeling more than he knew. "I lost my fiancé 2 years ago," she said softly, watching the girls play. "Car accident. Drunk driver. We were supposed to get married that summer." She swallowed hard. "Tonight was my first date since. My best friend set it up. I almost didn't come either." Their eyes met across the table, and something passed between them. Recognition. Understanding. The unspoken acknowledgement that they were both survivors of storms that should have drowned them. "Why did you stay?" James asked. "When you saw me walk in with 3 kids. Most people would have run." Sarah thought about it, watching Lily carefully fold her napkin drawing. "Because you looked how I feel every single day. Like you're barely holding it together but doing it anyway because people depend on you. And because they needed you to stay." She nodded toward the girls. "I see a lot of kids at the hospital. I know what it looks like when a father shows up, even when it's hard. Especially when it's hard." The dinner stretched into 2 hours. When it finally ended, with 3 sleepy girls and a mountain of used napkins, James walked Sarah to her car. The girls, exhausted from their big night out, were hanging on to their father like koalas, their earlier energy completely depleted. "I know this was the worst first date in history," James said, juggling his daughters. "But would you consider the worst second date in history? Maybe Sunday afternoon. There's a children's museum. It's definitely not romantic, but..." Sarah surprised herself again. "I work Sunday. But I'm off Saturday. What if we met at Millennium Park? The girls can run around, we can talk, and there's absolutely no pressure." "Really?" James looked stunned. "Really," Sarah confirmed. "Besides, Lily promised to show me her finished drawing, and I never break promises to artists." That was how it began. Not with romance or candlelight, but with chaos and chicken fingers and 3 little girls who desperately needed their father to smile again. The next weeks unfolded in a series of unconventional dates. Saturday at Millennium Park became Saturday afternoons at the park. Then Sunday morning pancakes at James's house, where Sarah discovered that the girls weren't exaggerating, his pancakes really were tragically misshapen. Then weeknight dinners where Sarah would come straight from the hospital, still in scrubs, and help with homework while James attempted dinner. It wasn't easy. There were moments when Sarah felt overwhelmed by the instant family package. Moments when James's guilt about moving forward without Rachel would surface. Moments when one or all of the girls would have meltdowns, testing this new woman in their lives. Emma, the bold one, warmed up quickly. Sophie, the dramatic one, declared Sarah her best friend by week 2. But Lily, sensitive and watchful, kept her distance. She was closest to Rachel's mom before she passed, James explained one evening after Lily had refused Sarah's help with her shoes. I think she's scared that if she loves you, she'll lose you too. The breakthrough came 5 weeks into their unconventional relationship. Sarah was at the hospital when she got the call. Emma had fallen at school, hit her head, and was being brought to the ER. James was in meetings downtown and wouldn't make it for 30 minutes. Sarah met the ambulance. Emma, brave despite the blood and fear, burst into tears when she saw Sarah's familiar face. I want my daddy, but I'm glad you're here, she sobbed. I know, sweetheart. I know. Sarah held her close, going into full nurse mode while also being the stable presence Emma needed. By the time James arrived, breathless and terrified, Emma had been treated, needed only a few stitches, and was proudly showing off her bandage. But Lily, who had been clinging to her father's hand, walked slowly to Sarah. Without a word, she climbed into Sarah's lap and tucked her head under Sarah's chin. James's eyes filled with tears. That was the moment Sarah realized she loved him. Not because of grand gestures or romantic moments, but because of the way his whole body relaxed seeing his daughter safe. Because of how he mouthed, "Thank you," over their heads. Because loving him meant loving all of them, and somewhere along the way, she had fallen completely, terrifyingly, beautifully in love with all 4 Collins family members. 2 months in, on a cold November evening, Sarah and James finally had their first real date. James's parents' former neighbors, an elderly couple who adored the girls, agreed to babysit. They went to a quiet restaurant, no children's menus in sight, and for the first time, talked uninterrupted for hours. I feel guilty, James admitted over dessert. Being happy. Moving forward. Rachel should be here. The girls should have their mother. Sarah reached across the table and took his hand. Rachel should be here. You're right. But she's not, and I am, and I think maybe both things can be true. You can honor what you lost and still choose to live. The girls are watching you, James. They're learning how to handle grief and love and resilience by watching you. What do you want them to learn? It was the same question Sarah had been asking herself. What would Marcus want for her? To stay frozen in grief, or to live fully, even if that life looked nothing like what they'd planned? The answer, she was learning, was always to live. By Christmas, Sarah had become a permanent fixture in the Collins household. She hadn't officially moved in, but her toothbrush lived in the bathroom, her favorite coffee mug had a place in the cabinet, and the girls had started asking when she'd be back whenever she left. On Christmas morning, after the presents had been opened and the living room looked like a toy store had exploded, James pulled Sarah aside. The girls were absorbed in their new toys, squealing and laughing. They have something for you, he said quietly. We all do. Emma, Lily, and Sophie approached together, hands behind their backs. In unison, they revealed drawings. Each had drawn a picture of their family, James, 3 little girls, and standing next to them, holding Lily's hand in one picture, Sophie's in another, and Emma's in the third, was Sarah. We want you to be official, Emma announced with the seriousness only a 5-year-old could muster. Daddy says we have to ask you proper, Sophie added. Lily, quiet as always but brave, spoke last. Will you be our family? For real? Sarah couldn't speak through her tears. James moved closer, pulling a small box from his pocket. We're doing this backwards and chaotic, just like everything else we do, he said, his own voice thick with emotion. But Sarah Mitchell, you walked into our mess and stayed. You showed my daughters what strength looks like. You showed me that my heart could heal enough to love again. Will you marry us? All of us? In that moment, surrounded by wrapping paper and 3 hopeful little faces and the man she'd found on the worst blind date in history, Sarah understood something profound. Love wasn't always the fairy tale she'd imagined with Marcus. Sometimes love was messy and complicated and came in unexpected packages. Sometimes it meant healing together, building something new from broken pieces. Sometimes the greatest love stories began with a blind date mix-up, a single dad CEO who brought his triplet daughters, and a young nurse who stayed. Yes, she whispered, then louder, yes. To all of you. Always yes. The girls erupted in cheers, tackling Sarah in a group hug that nearly knocked her over. James wrapped his arms around all of them, this beautiful, chaotic family they were choosing to become. 6 months later, they married in a small ceremony at Millennium Park, right near the spot where they'd had their second date. The girls were flower girls, of course, and Emma's speech about how Daddy's pancakes are still sad but now we have Sarah's good ones too, brought down the house. Lily gave Sarah a drawing she'd worked on for weeks, their family, complete, with the words, "Love is choosing to stay," written carefully at the bottom in her kindergarten handwriting. Sarah kept that drawing in her locker at the hospital. On hard days, when she lost patience or felt overwhelmed by the weight of other people's pain, she'd look at it and remember her own truth. Life was fragile and unpredictable. Love could be lost in an instant. But it could also be found in the most unexpected places, if you were brave enough to stay. The message she carried forward, the one she hoped would resonate with everyone who heard their story, was simple but profound. Your life might not look like the one you planned. The person you become might emerge from circumstances you never chose. But showing up, staying present, choosing love even when it's complicated and scary and messy, that's where real life happens. That's where miracles hide. Don't run from the unexpected. Don't let fear of more loss keep you from the possibility of more love. Sometimes the greatest blessings come disguised as disasters. Sometimes the family you're meant to find is waiting on the other side of the courage it takes to stay. Because at the end of the day, love isn't about perfect circumstances or ideal timing. It's about looking at the chaos, the complications, the beautiful mess of real life, and saying yes anyway. It's about staying.